Could you explain your role in the Kansas City, Missouri School District during the period of school desegregation?
My role was, I was a student in the school district during this desegregation from first grade to sixth grade. The efforts that were put into place were just to bring in the children from the surrounding suburban areas to the inner city schools. And that was, for me personally, it was by taxi. So yeah, I think just to integrate them into the school district.
So how did that work? So all of a sudden one year you had to start taking a taxi?
Yeah, I guess. So I started school in the Kansas City School District from kindergarten to sixth grade. So I guess I didn't really notice a difference. I wasn't pulled, from elementary school in the suburbs. I started my education, or my early education here in the city. It was about, 30 minutes to 45. The taxi would make 1 or 2 stops to pick up other children, and they wouldn't necessarily go to my school. So we had to also drop them off at another school on the way. But yeah.
So did it take a lot of time before and after school then, just to go to school and to come home?
I guess so, but no different than maybe if a parent were to pick me up and you'd still be in the traffic or in the drive, and you tend to beat traffic by a little bit because you're released from school a little early. So I don't remember it being a long drive. It was personal enough, and we listened to music the whole time, and that's all I really cared about. So.
Did you have a lot of friends who had to travel either by bus or taxi long distances to get to their schools?
No, well, in my neighborhood, everybody took a bus to school. So other than the few people that I rode with in the taxi over the years, no one else did, no. It's interesting to look back and reflect on it at such a young age. Now I would say I think they responded pretty well. They probably were hesitant because I don't remember having a lot of other children in my neighborhood or in Lee Summit, where I grew up, that participated in the program, but I never really thought about, I think, what people in the urban community thought. So I'm sure they were open to it. It was just adding more children to their classes. I'm not sure. They probably had extra preparation, for the children that weren't necessarily in the community, and maybe adding the whole added transportation issue, which would maybe be more work. I think making sure that the students felt comfortable in the schools would have been an issue, I'm sure. But I think for the most part, I never sensed, them missing a beat when I was a student there. So it's funny when you're that young. You just don't. I guess we didn't put much thought into it. They were aware that I didn't live in the city, and I don't know how many conversations they had, with their parents or about it. But I think their attitude was that that's just what we were doing, and maybe that. I was under special circumstances to be able to be in the school with them, but I don't know. For being a student that participated, I think I was just lucky enough to participate. I don't know that I really contributed. It may be just allowing or helping the efforts, by being willing and doing it and being excited about it. Yes, so I definitely did, and you play on the weekends or after school with your friends in the neighborhood, and they never understood why. They never saw me as why I didn't go to that school, because it's all relevant to the vicinity that you live in. And when I would explain what I was doing, the they thought it was cool. They were sort of really interested and didn't understand why I was doing it, So I think for the kids that weren't participating in it, they maybe just didn't know very much about the program. because my mom worked in the school district, it was just a given that I was going to, so it wasn't ever an issue for me to leave a school and have to start new in an urban school. That was what I did. I was more sad when it ended and I had to transition to the school that was in my neighborhood. That was a bigger deal. She did, being my mom, she did explain, that they were doing a new program where they wanted very straightforward. She said they wanted the children from the suburbs to, start attending the inner city schools, and I remember it being called maybe the magnet program or something along those lines. So to me, I just thought that was I had an opportunity to go to a variety of different schools. And I'm not sure that she explained why I went to whatever elementary school that I attended, but I was open to it. It seemed like an adventure, and I knew I would be a little bit closer to her because she'd be here in the city. So it was nice too. And I felt comfortable because I think she knew a lot of the faculty and the staff. So yeah.
That was almost the next question I was going to ask is, because it wasn't a school right in your community, I was going to ask how involved your mother might have been at the school, but you're saying that she knew a lot of the faculty and staff.
Yes, yeah.
Was she very involved? Do you think as involved as she might have been had it been the school down the street from your house?
Probably not. But I think she just had a more, that was her job, to be involved in, to work with the hiring. So she knew a lot of the teachers and the principals, and understood the different programs between each school. And so I always felt they knew that I was her daughter. So even though it might have been like a challenge socially, on occasion, I still felt pretty comfortable there. And even if it would have felt like a challenge, I guess to me, I felt like I got to participate in a fun project with her, even though she wasn't, with me on a daily basis. So I was doing it, for her, or with her. So it was exciting. To be completely honest, I felt unprepared for the education that I walked in, when I started school in Lee Summit, but I'm not sure why.
So to be clear, so when you stopped attending the inner city school and you went to a school in Lee Summit, so in the suburb, that you felt unprepared? A little bit, and maybe I think I couldn't tell you exactly what it was, and it could have been more of just, the social anxiety that held you back, or you weren't. I didn't feel as comfortable in the learning environment because it did feel different. But that was not to say that I didn't get a great education, because I remember still my experiences at my elementary school, and the things that we did were just unique. And I know that my friends that went to, the neighborhood elementary school didn't get to do those things. So I guess it's not fair to say I wasn't prepared. I maybe just wasn't socially prepared for the change, because it did feel quite a bit different. But yeah. And that was my next question, was about social outcomes. So what were some of the social outcomes of school desegregation? So maybe if you could expand on some of your experiences then, moving between, the inner city school and then the suburban school during that period of time.
So I'm not sure how much notice she gave me about the transition from the school that I was in 6th grade. But I think maybe it was just the following year. I knew I'd be leaving, and it was exciting because I wanted to ride a school bus. That was something I saw. It'd come down the street all the time. So I had that to look forward to, and I knew that I would be at school with the friends that lived in my neighborhood. So at least that would make it a little easier, as opposed to if I were just moving to a new city and didn't know anyone. But I think I noticed a difference in being This is interesting. Being biracial, I always was striving to find my place with the inner city community, and then on the flip side, when I moved to the schools in the suburbs, because you see a distinct difference between the people that are around you. So I felt more comfortable here, and I assume that's because it's where I started. So it was just different seeing the feel is different. I can't, it's hard to put into words, but.
So were classrooms more diverse in the inner city schools?
Yes.
That you went to?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And
was that some of the challenges that you felt when you went to the suburban schools?
Yes.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. I think you get used to that, and you're comfortable in that environment. So it felt different, and I think diversity to me felt more comfortable, and it was more interesting. So when I was switched schools and most of the people there wasn't very much diversity, then I felt very out of place. Does that make sense? But it also could have been just because I was a new student too. So I don't know.
Maybe thinking about some of your friends who maybe also might have participated in school desegregation efforts.
Mm-hmm.
Did they talk about any either challenges or opportunities in terms of academics or social outcomes?
So I don't know that I have any friends that participated in it. I think most of the friends that I knew were just here. The people that lived in other, the children that I went to school with, we didn't necessarily connect as much because I would only see them for that year, and it would be the short window before after school. And then, it would also depend on whether we were the same age, or a lot of times they could be a couple years older or a couple of years younger. So I don't really know anybody that did. And I guess that's why so many of my friends even now still, they can't wrap their minds around it. It doesn't make sense to them. It's more exposure. So growing up in the suburbs, I still spent a lot of time here in the city that I wouldn't have otherwise. So when I graduated from college and moving back to Kansas City, I wanted to live. I want to be a part of that, the city that I felt comfortable in, and I was excited about. But I'm not sure how many students participated in the program, but I got to see more of the city, and it's just like a small window in time. But for the 45-minute ride that I would take, it wasn't a school bus filled with children, and I was interacting. I would look out the window and see everything, for every day that I was in school, to and from. So yeah, I don't know if that's how much that affects, the community directly, but yeah, more exposure, I guess. I think the changes needed would just to be more united. The community, as if they would support and believe in the schools, if they had a strong belief in the school system, it would probably help the overall, goal. It's hard to expect much widespread success if the parents and the community aren't behind the school's efforts, and making sure that even the staff feels that support and is on board, and the standards are maybe even more similar between each school, so that they're dedicated, to getting the job done. I don't know. I think it seems like it's been pretty rocky lately. So just knowing that the community supports them and that we're here and want them to do well, so that the teachers that are committed and good teachers know that they will have a job, and when they face challenges, as every school does, no matter where you are with the children and the education program, that the parents and neighbors and, other community members are wanting them to succeed. I forget that that's what it was. So looking back, it was just that I went to the inner city schools. But now that I'm an adult and I'm more aware of, the reason behind it, and that we weren't the only city to do it. And it's cool to say that I was a part of it. I think it gave me a different perspective that I wouldn't have otherwise had. After school, after college, I came back and started working under a principal that I had when I was younger at her charter school. And I think had I not had that experience, let's say I just went to the suburban school and went, to Mizzou, that I would have felt more comfortable coming back and finding a school that I was used, the one school that I, the one district that I worked in, went to. So it made me appreciate the city and the different communities. I think I have a better understanding for that. I feel lucky to have participated in it. That was the biggest thing.